This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hey guys, Jay here, welcome to Miles Memories Weekly, episode 274. Miles Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where we're talking about painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week. Oh, could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, Games Workshop showed off some new product that is meant for 11th edition, one of the first things we've seen from Games Workshop in a while, some Battleforces. These come in big square boxes and remind me of today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace allows anyone to design the website of their dreams with the most powerful and easiest design tools in the industry, like Design Blueprint. Using AI technology empowers anyone to build a more personalized website tailored to their needs, crafting a bespoke digital identity. Choose from a professionally curated selection of styling options to build a unique online presence from the ground up. Squarespace makes sure it's easy to launch your website and get discovered fast with integrated, optimized SEO tools, so you show up more often to more people and grow the way you want. With Squarespace, it's never been easier to set up a unique online storefront. Whether your services are physical, digital, or service-based, selling your wares has never been easier. Squarespace offers an unmatched ability to showcase your unique wares with images, videos, reviews, and add-ons, all capped off with their seamless checkout tools, letting your customers use whatever system they prefer, whether Klarna, ACH Direct Deposit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, or ClearPay. Squarespace offers a 14-day free trial for you to dip your feet into and test the waters, and ready to dive in headfirst, you can go to squarespace.com/EonsOfBattle or follow the link in the description to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Battleforces are always a fun thing from Warhammer 40,000, a way to get a whole bunch of miniatures for what Games Workshop thinks is a discount. And these ones are meant for 11th edition, or at least they're going to be available to purchase in 11th edition. Starting with the Astra Militarum and the incredibly unique name, the Astra Militarum Platoon. This comes with a squad of Cadians, a Cadian command squad, a commissar, the artillery guns, a Rogaldorn battle tank, and very interestingly, a Basilisk. This is a whole bunch of pretty bog standard guard guys. The Basilisk is a little bit interesting. Indirect fire is different in 11th edition, and I think they finally got indirect fire correct. The way it previously worked is a roll of 1, 2, or 3 always failed when you were firing indirectly. You can pick anything on the board or anything within your gun's range, which, by the way, the Basilisk's Demolisher Cannon range is 240 inches. It is literally 240 inches, so it's 20 feet is the range of this miniature. So previously you would miss 50% of the time. The way indirect fire works now is, if you want to shoot at something you can't see, you only hit on 6s unless you can satisfy a couple of caveats. So number 1, you have to have not moved, pretty easy for indirect fire platforms. But the second one is if something else in your army can see the thing that it's trying to indirect fire at, then you get to be hitting on 4-ups. I actually like that a lot. It satisfies the one thing that indirect fire kind of ruins, which is those weapons don't interact with the game. Where now, you actually have to do a little something. You have to play the game a little bit. You have to have like one Cadian poke his head out of some terrain to look at the thing, and then he can report back to the Basilisk where it is so that you can actually have a 50% chance of actually hitting the target. I think that's very fair. I think that's very good. I think it's fun and flavorful. I think that actually is going to make indirect fire quite a bit better. Because Demolisher Cannon, what is it? D6 plus 3 blast? Like, it might be worth just essentially snap shooting at like a Tallyman or a Tau Ethereal that's just camping an objective somewhere, where if you just get 1 dice to go through, you could take them out. But it's probably better to wait for something else in your army to be able to actually draw a bead on the thing you're shooting at, and then you have a much better chance of success. I feel like that's actually pretty good. Other than that, this guard box is pretty standard. It's a bunch of stuff. It's a bunch of guard stuff. It's a Rogaldorn battle tank, and I love a Rogaldorn battle tank. I definitely don't mind when I see 2 or 3 of those across from me on the battlefield. And the heavy ordnance batteries, they're interesting. I've actually played against those guys a fair bit because they came in the old Imperial Guard Combat Patrol, and so a lot of people have those. And I think those also have some indirect fire options, so the Imperial Guard are looking good for 11th edition. Moving on to the equally interestingly named Tyranid Swarm. Games Workshop is crushing it with these names, and this one comes with a squad of Ormagons, a squad of Termagons, a squad of Warriors, some Von Ryan's Leapers, and the Swarmlord / Hive Tyrant. Just a whole bunch of regular old Tyranid fellas. The only interesting thing with this box really is the Von Ryan's Leapers, because in 11th edition, Fights First and Heroic Intervention are substantially different. Fights First is kinda gone, like it kinda doesn't meet. Previously, Fights First was a god tier ability. It essentially meant you were unchargeable because you would always get to fight first. So even if something ran into you, you would get the first swing, and the things that had fight first, or you could give fight first to, were typically really good. So your opponent would not be able to let that happen. And so it essentially meant that unit had to be killed in close combat, or it had to be killed at range, because if they got to close combat, it would be really, really bad news. Nowadays, Fights First is much more akin to Age of Sigmar, where everything that charged has fights first, and then everything that in my army that has fights first goes into a pool at the start of the combat phase. And so the controlling players charging units with fights first do get to fight first, but they get to select one unit to fight first, and then it bounces to me, and then I do a check if I have any fights first, and then I get to select the next model to fight. Typically, that's gonna mean that I'll have like one thing with fights first, and if my opponent charged two things, that means I wouldn't necessarily get an interrupt. It just means that I get one out of sequence fight that my opponent knows about and can control. So typically, they would charge my fights first unit, they would fight the fights first unit, and then whatever remains after that combat, my fights first unit gets to fight, and then the combat phase would continue as normal. So fights first is way, way worse. But Von Ryan's Leapers don't just have fights first, they have free Heroic Intervention. And Heroic Intervention has changed dramatically. Now, it used to be if something in your army could make a free charge in your opponent's fight phase, or in your opponent's charge phase, but it was only 6 inches. I can count the number. I can count, like, it's a very small number of times I've actually used Heroic Intervention, because 6 inches. So many times my opponent has managed to get like 7 inches away from me. And even though I can see the fight happening right over there, and it feels like I could probably reach him, it cannot happen. It is only 6 inches. Now you can just declare a charge and then roll your charge distance. And if you make it, you make it. They have to be within 12, I guess, but 12 is pretty easy to do. So that is really, really solid. And you getting charged would also grant you fights first. So potential for interrupt shenanigans with the fights first mechanic. And then there's also a rider where you can spend 1 additional command point to turn it into 2 command point fights first, where you can make a 6-inch charge against anything, which that actually becomes really, really powerful. I don't know if the 2 command point version becomes free with the Von Ryan's Leaper ability. Von Ryan's Leaper datasheet literally says you can use the Heroic Intervention stratagem for 0 CP. But does that mean both versions of Heroic Intervention, or just the standard Heroic Intervention? I would assume it means the standard, but I think it would be way, way better if it was the 2 command point Heroic Intervention. Because then all of a sudden fights first becomes interesting, because, you could charge something of mine, and then I get to free charge something you didn't want me to charge against within 6 inches, and then you would fight me, and then my Von Ryan's Leapers with their fights first mechanic could then interrupt and fight somewhere else. That all of a sudden becomes really, really interesting. Von Ryan's Leapers have been a little iffy in 10th edition. They're not bad. They get like 6 chainsword attacks each, but they're not great. And it'd be really interesting to see if they are allowed to use the 2 command point Heroic Intervention. I feel like they do become quite a bit better as just a weird little bully unit. They're not going to be cutting down some actual really big melee threats, but they can definitely do they can create some real problems if they are just allowed to, in my opponent's turn, charge whatever they want, fight whatever they want. Like, that would be really, really interesting. Otherwise, they're fine. A lot of the Tyranid codex is just kind of fine. You can flood the board, but it's with units that don't do a whole heck of a lot. The Tyranid Swarm, it seems fine. But it seems great. My man Tim is once again hosting the Midwest Mini Swap. It's coming up soon, June 28th on a Sunday from 10 to 2 at the VFW Center in New Berlin, Wisconsin. It's always a really fun time, a great way to swap some minis, get some good deals, and I'm gonna be there and I'm gonna be bringing a ton of stuff and it's gotta move, so our prices are gonna be pretty darn good. It's a really fun time, and if you decide to check it out, you'll know you're in the right place when you see the big old tank out front. Moving on to Chaos Space Marine Warband. This is a Disco Lord on what is the name of the thing? The Lord Discordant on Hellstalker. Then you get the Obliterators / Venom Crawler kits, which are still paired because they came out in one of these other boxes, and they exist on the same sprue, so you actually can't buy those units separately. And so I guess they're included in this box to help bulk it out. Then there is a squad of 10 Legionaries, 2 squads of 10 Cultists, and that is it. A nice little Chaos Warband. Nothing super unique with this in terms of 11th edition. I think these guys are going to perform exactly as they do in current 10th edition 40k. The only thing that is kind of cool is I like the Venom Crawler. It's a really weird unit. It's got like 9 wounds of toughness 9, and its guns are really randomly good. And it has one of the silliest abilities in 40k where if the Venom Crawler kills something in close combat, then it gets +1 attack for the rest of the game. And I don't believe this has a cap, but it doesn't matter because it's never gonna kill anything in close combat. But if you could somehow figure out a way for it to be doing the last wound in a bunch of combats and killing units, you could really bulk up its number of attacks. For some reason, it's not really a melee unit. It really wants to be standing back and shooting a lot more. But it's interesting. It's an interesting unit, and getting a whole bunch of cultists is probably pretty good. They've got sticky objectives. They're just a whole bunch of really, really cheap bodies. I feel like this box, it's fine. Then there is the Necron Host, which is a Canoptek Doom Stalker, a Catacomb Command Barge, 2 squads of warriors, 1 squad of 5 flayed ones, and 1 squad of Ophidian Destroyers. Just a whole bunch of stuff. And it's a whole bunch of kind of okay stuff. The warriors are whatever. The Doomstalker is kind of interesting. The ability with the Doomstalker is it can overwatch. Not for free, but it can overwatch and be successful on 5s and 6s. New Overwatch, it's a little bit different. You can't do it in the charge phase anymore, which I really like. It was so annoying, especially for armies like Drukhari that are really, really squishy to just never be safe from Overwatch. So now if you can move just right, you can create situations where you are relatively safe from Overwatch. And the Doomstalker, I think its Doomsday Cannon is like D6 +1 blast. It might be D6 +3 blast. It's only flat 3 damage, and so hitting on 5s and 6s is 1 command point worth it for a 1 in 3 chance of nuking 1 Space Marine? Probably not. It's not the coolest ability, but it's a little something interesting. Feel like a 1 in 3 chance is not great, but you could always spike and then do a bunch of flat damage 3 wounds through on an enemy unit, so it's kind of interesting. And the Catacomb Command Barge, I actually feel like is somewhat slept on in Necrons. It's just a Necron Overlord in a boat, but what's kind of interesting is it can't attach to anything, and so it's able to grant its buffs as an aura effect, and this includes the Resurrection Orb. The Resurrection Orb lets Necrons resurrect whenever they want at the beginning or end of any phase for D6 instead of D3, and this can be given to Necron Infantry, which is most Necron units, or Necron Mounted for absolutely no reason. I don't know why Games Workshop felt that that was essential, but it's kind of cool because it means that the Catacomb Command Barge can D6 resurrect the Necron Locust Destroyers, which is kind of cool. There's actually a Locust Destroyer Lord who can have Res Orb, so I could have a big brick of 6 Necron Locust Destroyers who at 2 different phases can resurrect for D6, which is kind of absurd. I like that a lot. I think it's really, really cool. The Catacomb Command Barge itself is not gonna do a whole lot. He's a Necron with a War Scythe, which is like 4 attacks that hit on 2s, strength a bunch, damage 3. It's not that good. It'll kill a couple of Space Marines in close combat, maybe. but the fact that it's just an unattached overlord that is pretty darn tanky is kind of interesting. I do like it. What I don't know if I like is kind of any of these boxes that much. The Astra Militarum Platoon is 670 points of models. The Tyranid Swarm is 460 points, which is very low. And hilariously, if you took out the Overlord, it would only be 270 points of miniatures. The Chaos Space Marine Warband is 620 points. And the Necron Host, which looks like an absolute ton of stuff, is only 580. I guess I didn't include the 40 points for the Necron Scarab Swarm, but who cares about the Necron Scarab Swarm? They're all pretty standard. I feel like Games Workshop maybe doesn't understand the appeal of a Battleforce, because really I think all of these boxes would be excellent if they were your first foray into a new 40k faction. These all come with bog standard units that you'll probably want in every single one of your armies. But for existing players, I can't imagine anyone caring about any of these boxes. They all just come with the normal stuff. I feel like battle forces get interesting when they start to get really specific. A battle force that I had my eye on was the Eye of Terror Battalion box, Sons of Dorn. This is the one that came with 2 Rep X's and 2 Dreadnoughts, a Ballistus and a Redemptor. This one was very focused. This was, do you want 2 of the most expensive Space Marine tank? And I kinda did. I was playing a lot of games at my local store. I went like 4 times in a week, and all 4 times I like saw it sitting there on the shelf, and I was like, oh, I should just buy it. I do want everything in that box. It's a very specific thing. It would just add like a giant, big, tanky model wing to my army. And then the 5th time I went in, after I decided I kind of do want the box, it was gone, which is fine. The reason that I wanted it, but I also didn't want it. I really wanted all of those things in my army, but I didn't really want to put together all of those models. If I could somehow snap my fingers and have them done, phenomenal. But I don't, putting together 2 Rep X's that's a project. That is a big old project. And so I did end up missing out on that box, but that's the only one in years where I really, really felt tempted because it was so specific. If these boxes, like if the Necron box was Oops All Destroyers with the new guy, Necrosaur Amintar, I feel like that would be a draw. Like Necron players, you know, maybe they've gone really, really big into Silver Tide, or they've gone really, really big into Monoliths or Catan. Like they have their army, but all of a sudden they could have a whole new section of their army that they haven't like experienced yet. I feel like that would be an interesting draw, but just regular Cadians and a command squad and a Dorn. Every Imperial Guard player has more than enough Rogel Dorns. Thank you very much. Like, I think that these boxes, they kind of missed the mark. They don't have the juice. But you know where you can find the juice? Our website, EonsOfBattle.com. Over there, we're all restocked on our excellent hobby goodies: Gamer Grass Tufts, Grey Tide Studio Bits for your Space Marines, Army Painter paints, brushes, basing cork, ultra thin and ultra thick super glue, and we've got terrain. It's the best way to support us doing what we do by getting a membership. Each month, members get a credit good for any one terrain pack we've ever made or the brand new one. This June, we have created the Ramshackle Bits pack. This set is full of improvised armor to enhance your vehicles, with massive treads, extra armor, rotating cannons, machine gun turrets, and little goblin gunners, and a bunch of little goblins to help keep all of this upgraded equipment running smoothly. Don't let the shoddy construction fool you. These bits are still plenty lethal, able to sling lead and crush foes under tread. This set also comes with a series of basing bits to litter your wasteland, and was designed by us and is available from EonsOfBattle.com. I feel like these Battleforce boxes kind of missed the mark. Let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think of them? Are any of them at all tempting? Like, I feel like they're just full of the normal stuff, and usually people buy the normal stuff for their armies, so if you're brand spanking new, it'd probably be a good way to get started in a new faction, but other than that, probably not. Also, every faction already has a combat patrol that is meant to get you into the game, and a lot of these things double up on things that already come in the combat patrol, so I feel like they're just kind of I don't know. Thanks for watching.